Today, we're going to be looking at creating a custom form within the Cireson Portal. Often, we need to extend a class such as a work item or a configuration item to take additional fields or properties to hold values that we want to hold against that item. In my example here today, I've extended the locations configuration item within the Cireson Asset Management product to hold 3 additional properties. If we open up the location CI, we can see the extension tab at the top of the location form here within the console. This tab holds any extended properties that we create. As you can see, I've added a new enumeration list to record the type of location and 2 Boolean properties to record if the location is radio enabled and voice over IP enabled. This is a specific solution for a specific customer who needed these particular fields, but these could be any fields that you needed to create to extend the particular class. But we're not interested in the console, so let's shut that down and move over to the portal. If we navigate to Asset Admin and we open up All Locations view, we open up one of these locations, there is no extensions tab at the top of this form. So we don't see those new properties that we created. However, unlike the console, we don't need to install and fight with the authoring tool, but instead we can do all of this with simply editing a text file that's in JSON format in the custom space folder of the portal. So we need to open up File Explorer and navigate to inetpub, Cireson Portal, and then we can navigate to Scripts, Forms, Templates, and this is where all the templates are available for different forms within the portal. Now, while it would be possible to make the changes here, it's not a good idea, as these files are copied over when an upgrade of the portal occurs. So don't edit the file here, but rather copy the file that you need to edit, in this case, the location.js file, and paste it into the custom space folder. If we go back to Cireson Portal, and we go into custom space, we can now paste this file into here. Okay. So now we need to edit this file. The best thing to do is open your text file editor of choice, such as Notepad or Notepad++, and run it as an administrator. This is so we can save it back to this location without any problems. Now we need to open that new file. So within custom space, we're looking to open location.js. We can open that here. Now, this is what a form template looks like in JSON format. You can see here we've got a tab list. These are each of the tabs that we see in the actual portal. The first one here, of course, being general. We then group these fields together under a title like location. We then group the fields together per row. So in this particular row, we've got the location name and the parent location. Now, if we jump back to the portal to actually see what that looks like, we can see that this is the general tab under the location subheading, and here's the location name and parent location all on the one line. Now, because there's 2 properties here, it's split it evenly across the page in half. Same with the next 2 down here, address line 1 and address line 2. And if we come back to the text file, we can see here's address line 1 and address line 2. Now we're wanting to add those 3 new properties. So if we scroll down and have a look, here we have location tax rate followed by a spacer. Now what does that look like here in the form? If we scroll down, we can see tax rate and then this space to split that particular control only into half of the form. Now, tax rate is never going to be any more than 3 digits. So this is taking up a lot of space. So let's try and put the properties across here and split this into quarters instead. So what we need to do is remove the spacer and replace this data type here with something else. The first one we're going to do is an enumeration list. So we're going to type enum as the data type. Then we need the property display name. And that can be whatever we want it to be that is going to appear on the form. I'm going to go location type. We then need the property name. I'm going to call this one again, location type. Now the property name is actually what we called it within the management pack when we authored this new enumeration list. So this is very specific and must match the name, the internal name you gave it inside the management pack. Now for enumeration lists, we now need to give it its unique ID. So in this case, we're going to give it a property here of enum ID. And then we need to give it the enum ID that is unique to this particular enumeration. And we don't know that at the moment, and it's not here in front of us. So we've got to look that up in PowerShell here in a bit. So what we'll do is just put some nonsense in here to start with, just as a bit of a placeholder. And we'll come back and finish that off at a later date. We can add in additional fields and properties here like required. So we could set that to a value of true. We could set additional properties here, such as maximum, minimum values required, whether it's enabled and so forth. But for this enumeration list, we're just going to set it there as required is to true and nothing else. Now, instead of typing it manually, normally what we would do is come up and actually copy one of the other items that exists in here. But I've decided today, just for the purposes of this video, to be able to type it in manually so we can see what's actually happening. So here we're going to now add another property on this same line or in this same group of field lists here. So the next one's going to be data type. This time it's going to be Boolean. The property display name is going to be radio enabled. The property name is going to be the same. And we don't need an enum ID here because it's not an enumeration. But what we do need is something like required equals. Now this time we might not need that. So we can set that to false. And then what we can do, especially with Boolean here as well, is do we want the label of that Boolean value on the same line as the checkbox, or do we want it on a different line? So the label being above the checkbox. So here we can actually put in line and set that to true. So it's in line with the same item. Now, one of the gotchas that you will always see with this is with the JSON formatting, it has a comma after it to be able to move it on to the next line. So we've got to make sure that we've got a comma against each line to make sure that we can move on to the next line. Now, as the next one is Boolean as well, we can just highlight that, copy it, come down and do the same thing. But this time, the display name is actually going to be something different, VoIP enabled, and the property being VoIP enabled as well. Okay, check for those commas again. Now, the last one doesn't need a comma, and that's fine. So that should be it all we need to do as far as this JSON file is concerned. If I now save it, that's now saved it back to the custom space folder. Now I shouldn't need to do anything other than refresh this screen to be able to make that happen. No need to restart the cache builder or anything like that. So here's our new form. And if we scroll down, we can see this is now split evenly in 4 across the page. And if I drop to the location type down, I can see that this request has failed. Now that's because we haven't entered that enumeration ID here. So now we have to find that enumeration ID. To find the enumeration ID, all I have to do is fire up PowerShell. In this case, let's do ISE. Going to do it as an administrator, as we always do with PowerShell. Okay. I'm going to type a command like get -SCSM enumeration. Okay, now if I hit enter onto there, it's going to return every single enumeration list with inside Service Manager. That doesn't really help me. So what I want to do here is add a property here of name. And I'm going to give it a name like location. And let's just see what it can find, that any enumeration list that has the word location in it somewhere. So if we run that, we get back 2 different enumeration types. Location type and another one there called Cireson.assetmanagement.location tasks. Okay. So we can refine our search a little bit further by going location type. Okay, and we run that again. Now we can see here that we just have that one item. We can see the name and we can see the display name. But what we need is the enumeration ID. So to get the enumeration ID, what we do is pipe that output and we select what fields or what properties we want to return for that enumeration ID. So what we want to do is return, say, display name, just so we know display name, just so we know what particular enumeration we are returning. And we want to return ID as well. And when we run that, we can see we get the display name there, location type, and we can see we get the ID as well. So we can copy that enumeration ID into our text file. And this gibberish that we typed in before, we can actually paste over the top of that new enumeration ID. Now I can save that. Now again, I don't need to restart anything. All I have to do is refresh the browser. And that new change would appear here. And now I can automatically see the values that are associated with it in that drop-down list. Now, if this doesn't appear, if this list doesn't appear for you, make sure that your cache builder has actually had time to sync your new enumeration list over into Service Manager, because it should appear there once that's has been synced over. And there we have it, a new form that has the properties on it that we want. You can also reorganize these forms from the custom space folder and set the layout however you like. Well, that's about it for this video. Join me for my next video, and I hope this has been helpful.